not too fond of the cold weather, but I love the fall. So we'll go ahead and I think Mr. Oxer will be on his way here shortly. We'll go ahead and get started. First item on the agenda, council, you've got your packets. If there are any adjustments to tonight's agenda, we'll accept those at this point.
Not from staff, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. If not, then I'll accept the motion to accept our agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion to accept our agenda as presented, sir.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
In opposition, hearing none, motion passes. First item of business is general business. And we'll start with council and myself, and then followed by staff comments. I'll start with Mr. Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have really a couple things and a question. So first thing is I'd like to thank the town and Emily and the staff for putting on a great Trails and Treats. I was involved in it myself, handing out candy for my re-election. But it was fantastic to see all the families and having a great time. And thank you to Felina and George for stopping by, and to Mr. Mayor for saying hello. But again, I want to thank the staff and Emily for putting on a great show for our citizens. And my other question is, I guess for Lynn or for Duck, is the Mad Monkey with the mural, and I know it's past the 30 days, so could I just ask how much each day they're getting fined for not taking that off?
Lynn and I spoke about that earlier today. I'll turn it over to her to give you a full answer to your questions.
Yes, they are being fined, and it's $50 for the first 2 weeks. It goes up $25 every 2 weeks. So it's 50, then it goes to 75, then it goes to 100. And then at that time, if we still don't have compliance, we have other options that we would have to get our attorney involved in. That would involve either an injunction or an order of abatement, and then we could sort of force something to happen there. But all that would have to go through the courts. So, but that's where we are. The fines have started as of today. Today's the first day of the fines, yes.
And the fines are per day.
Per day.
That is correct.
Okay.
Also, the business owner, not the property owner, but the business owner showed up threatening litigation to the town, and he was told, by all means, do what you feel right. But under the circumstances, I don't know what attorney would take the case for litigation, because there's no principle to do it under what all transpired.
So they're being a little combative with the situation.
The business owner is not the property owners. The property owners are upset that the situation has occurred, but not toward the town.
Okay, and then my last thing is, I won't go on because I'm sure everybody else will discuss it. Just thoughts and prayers with the incident that happened on Saturday. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yes, I'd just like to go over what Eddie talked about with the Trails and Treats. Staff workers, I was out earlier in the day, I'd come by and noticed they were already working, fixing the trail up at the entrance and the exits, and they were, all the public works guys were out, and Parks and Recreation putting parking cones out and get everybody ready for parking. And then as I went back that evening, I noticed that we had the Wizard of Oz group, including the Wizard, all out there working the booth. They had but all of our staff was involved in parking and pictures, and it was really busy. Good times out, our staff, so many people involved in it, so it was really good. And the other, since he's here, Public Works Director, for helping me finally resolve the liners in the pool at the house I used to live in. My hands are washed of that job. It's been a long trail, but I appreciate the help of Public Works and the fire department for allowing me to use hoses to get that pool filled up. So that was a lot of help. And the other thing, I'll mention that since I happen to be inside the yellow tape Saturday night at the incident down up the street here, never in my life have I ever seen a dead person, so it's kind of really was unsettling when they pulled him out of the car. But I'd just like to say our police and the EMTs and the fire department really quickly were there. I mean, it was like kind of very professionalism out there, and even when my son-in-law realized Austin, my grandson, had already gone to the car, with their car, and it was inside the tapes. I gotta get him out. He was scared in the car, so they would never have get him, got him out of the car, and get him out of the way. And he had seen, he walked across right before that car pulled in. So it was kind of scary thing of that. And my granddaughter was really, really upset. So luckily my wife had never sat there in the bathroom. And then I'd like to thank the town manager who actually spoke to Austin and Avery and didn't have to calm them down a little bit. So it was sad something like that happened around, but that's, at least we have our people know how to handle it and real quickly handle it. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
Same, I won't go on and on, but thoughts and prayers to the families with the situation that happened as well. I just wanted to commend the town, I'm assuming that it's the town that put the flashing lights out here at the crosswalk. I think I noticed it like a few weeks ago. I was like, yes, because we just talked about that a few months ago about not being able to see people when they're coming out. So thank you all for putting those, or making sure that those got put out there, the crosswalk flashing lights. Again, I did, as Eddie mentioned, go to Trails and Streets, very, 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 very well attended event. I know it had to be, what, 2,000-3,000 people out there? It was a lot of people out there, so great event. Emily, if she's listening, great event, Emily and team, everybody who helped put that together. It was great seeing everybody out there. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Mr. Oxford?
Don't have too much, just glad to be here. Sorry for being late. But yeah, sad to hear what happened. But great job by the staff and by the police force getting the situation under control and getting the correct information out. Yeah, so hats off to all involved there. It was good to see the trick-or-treaters out in full force. I know it seems we had a lull there with COVID, but it seems like they're starting to come back because I know we got drilled in our neighborhood, probably in part due to the Trails and Treats that was here. So we got your overflow, and also Council Lady Harris stole a little bit of my thunder. I got some good feedback on the flashing crosswalk signs by a few people, which of course came with about 5 or 6 recommendations of where we need them next. So told them just one step at a time, So, but yeah, those are definitely being noticed by the community and are going over very well. So great job. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hinkle?
I mean, that's ironically, I'm like you. I noticed them some time ago, driving down the road, and I said, that hasn't been there before. So thank you to the staff for getting those put up. Noticeable and a good purpose behind it. And as Jerry says, one step at a time, and as other needs come up, other places that we need those, we'll certainly be glad to do it if it's advisable and appropriate. I want to also go along. I drove by, in fact, it was probably around 4:15, 4:20. Trails and Treats was just, I guess, and couldn't find a parking place nearby. So I just kind of drove around and looked, and Daddy, I'm sorry I missed your candy. I'll try and be there for you tomorrow when it counts. So,
Okay, thank you.
But at any rate, I was tickled to death. I know, listening to the town manager's radio show the week before, he was expecting over 2,000, and as Lena said, 2 to 3. It looked like, and that was at 4:15, so another hour 45 minutes to go. Jerry, you mentioned about the neighborhood. I was in my daughter's neighborhood, and same thing. Of course, most of them were just neighborhood, but they got a bit of the overflow as well, and that's good. They're fine. They stocked up, and glad to see the kids. It's Halloween is about that, and helping the kids, and had some unique costumes, and enjoyed that. Enjoyed it very much. As you all examine again, the situation Saturday night, horrendous, unfortunate. 18-year-old life snuffed out. 20-year-old one probably, that's going to be in his head from now on. And it's just a shame. I don't know when, it's just unsustainable what's going on in this country when it comes to this sort of thing, violence, weaponry and so forth, in the hands of irresponsible, and now kids. And listening to a television newscast the other night, the comments were, in this nation, it's primarily they were talking about the Charlotte area, but it applies to the nation. More and more violence is coming from our youth, and not necessarily from adults. It used to be, the adults and, not necessarily the youth, but now it's the youth, primarily talking about, mid to late teens. Even, 12, 13-year-olds, picking up how they get a hold of them, I don't know, but having guns and having no second thoughts about shooting somebody simply because they felt disrespected or some other nonsense reason, makes no sense. I don't know. It's unsustainable, and it's got to stop somewhere. It just can't keep on. It's like one lady on the newscast every night said, if you don't feel safe in Troutman, where can you feel safe? And I feel safe in Troutman. We got a great police force, and they're right on it, and I commend the police department for all they have done and are doing as they further investigate this case. But Troutman is safe. It's just that no place in this country is safe from this type of violence. Used to be, you would think, rural areas, small towns, rural areas, but not anymore, everywhere. And I know it makes you think, and when I went to church Sunday morning, I kind of had, a little extra seriousness to myself when I went into, for the service. Pray for this country, and especially for our youth. I think that's it, Mayor.
So I'll pick up where Mr. Hinkle and everyone else has mentioned. Again, Josh, appreciate you and the police force for what you all did and are still doing, and know that requires a lot of hours and effort on your part, and ensuring that our folks who were involved in that situation were taken care of. So please let the rest of the officers know as well that our thoughts and prayers are with them also. It's not always easy even finding that kind of situation, and understanding that you all on the front lines of that. So again, appreciate that. What I would say is, again, I was asked a couple of times, does this happen in Troutman often? The answer is no. And so thank God that's not the case, and we don't anticipate that being the case. And hopefully we won't see that level of violence occur, anytime soon. But again, appreciate all those involved, and trying to make sure that things were handled appropriately. Appreciate all the law enforcement and SBI coming in and supporting you all during this investigation as well. And sorry that you all had to witness that, Mr. Harris, and understand that for children especially it can be traumatizing. So again, please take care of them and make sure that they get the care that they need during this time as well. Thank you. A couple of things. Nobody said Election Day is tomorrow, but it is tomorrow. Very important. I think there was some insinuation by Mr. Hinkle, but I ask all the citizens, please get out and exercise your right to vote. And our voting precinct has changed since our last, so it'll be at Katz. I think the polls open at 6:30 and close at 7:30. So plenty of time to get out there tomorrow if you haven't already. Weren't able to do it during early voting, which closed on Saturday. So again, hopefully folks will get the opportunity to get out and again exercise their right to vote. Trails and treats. Some of you look a little different than you did that day. I'll just leave it at that. But, I actually saw some of the staff that I hadn't seen, particularly in that setting, and they look a little different as well. But again, it was a huge event, and staff that, again, you all I see on a regular basis, some of which I know were out there and don't show up in this room, probably don't interact a whole lot with council, but they too were working, and so send appreciation to you all and those who are also, supporting the town in that event. I know it takes a lot. It's not normal business hours and normal activity, but again, it was a great event, and again, appreciate all those who were able to come out. I'm glad I didn't see any photos of me out there in the free news, so I'll just say I was there, but a little bit incognito. Veteran Day is coming up, and want to make sure that we recognize all of our active military as well as those who have served in our military, and so keep that in mind. November 11th is each year a remembrance of our active duty military as well as those who have served, and so I know some of the folks in this room have served and appreciate your service, and if you have an opportunity to thank those who have served and made the call, accepted the call, please give them our appreciation as well. Crosswalks, I can't say enough in terms of the feedback I've heard, so good work on that, and I know it's been kind of trial and error, and so it sounds like we're getting some positive feedback on that. I had the wonderful opportunity of going down Old Mountain Road on Friday, and South Iredell was letting out. The one thing that I heard from another citizen who I see on a regular basis was didn't know how many kids actually use that greenway now. And so when I grew up, there might have been a couple of people scattered walking from south, but that was amazing to see the number of kids who use that greenway walking every day. And so again, kudos to the council and the staff for making the decision and making that happen in partnership with the school district. So good stuff there. I've got a proclamation that will be coming up on tomorrow. We'll sign a proclamation for survivors of suicide. I'll talk a little bit more about it on Thursday, but the Survivor Day will be celebrated, or not really celebrated, but remembered on this weekend, on Saturday. And so I know there's mental health issues in our community, in other communities, and we don't want any suicides in our community, but it's also important to know that people have suffered from suicide, family members who are left behind and need to be supported, and so I ask that you all support them as well. So just note that I'll be working with the other mayors in Mooresville and Statesville to sign a proclamation in honor of those who are still dealing with suicide that's occurred either in their families or friends as well. So that will be happening up at Statesville Town Hall on tomorrow at the rate. Last thing is there's, I think all of the staff, or the staff might have gotten as well as council, but there's a cooperative extension farm city banquet on November 14th. I don't know if you've got that or not, but for those of you who could attend or possibly can make it, be great. I will share this information as well, but I can't make it. It's on the 14th. I've got a prior commitment, but just wanted to make note of the fact that Iredell County is top county for agriculture. still in this county. You know, food line, you know, we do grow all kinds of vegetables, not really, but people think that, but it actually comes from the farm. And so we need to recognize that farm and agriculture is still a big part of our community. So there's going to be a celebration of that for Farm City Week on November 14th. That's all I have. I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt for any staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First thing I would like to address is the incident that occurred Saturday. If people will read their Bible, murder has been happening a long time. It's not exempt from certain areas. It has been, other than a drug-related overdose type situation, other than that, it's been more than 20-some years since we have had a murder inside our town limits. That certainly does not make it okay, and we hope that it's 50 years before the next one occurs. However, just echoing some of the sentiments that you all made, I'm proud of the police chief and his officers, and the fact that we have experienced people that know what they're doing and how to handle those situations, and they have the appropriate assistance from other agencies to help them conclude the investigation. One thing I would like to address specifically, and then I'll turn it over to the chief for a few comments, is when these type situations happen, especially in today's world, people want to be the first to say something on social media, whether it's right or wrong. And unfortunately, doing that sometime actually gets out the wrong information. And for that, I'm not scolding anyone, I'm just saying simply, if you don't know factually, don't repeat things that are not accurate, because it can cause a lot of harm, not just to the victim families or identify the wrong suspects possibly, but it wastes law enforcement time to have to go and chase down all these leads because somebody wants to say something that's just totally inaccurate. By all means, anytime crime occurs, law enforcement needs those people who have information to step forward and provide or share that information. But social media is certainly not the place for it. We would like to be able to tell people a lot of facts that are. Unfortunately, for a successful prosecution, the police are limited as to what they can and should say. Some of the phone calls I got was, well, even so-and-so does press releases. Absolutely. It's usually a day or 2 days later, not within the first 2 hours. Only thing that we can say is this does not appear to be a random act of violence, and our citizens should feel as secure as they were before this incident occurred. But I do appreciate not just the police department, but several of staff that offered, and several community members. I don't want to overlook them. Several community members reached out to the chief himself or me, or a combination thereof, at the same time offering assistance and prayers, and that is greatly appreciated. At this time, Chief, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just, a lot of of our community members, well, I mean, it's on social media, they're like, are we safe? How, if the suspect's still at large, how's it a no threat to the community? We found out things immediately that night that we knew there's not a threat to the community. There's not a lot that I can discuss yet because we can't compromise integrity investigation. Sometimes discussing that stuff can make it hard to catch our suspects. And but anytime there's ever been a situation in Troutman where there was a danger, a suspect near a school, we've reported schools in a lot of towns. We would tell the community, hey, be on the lookout for this or that. This situation is not something that the average citizen needs to, be worried they're going to become a victim of. So while everybody, wants to know a lot of information, there's certain things we are required to release if asked, and those have been released. That information has been released. So everything else is, we have to do to protect their investigation. Because I think some people, this becomes an entertainment for them, and they need to remember that, a family, lost their child. You know, a lot of families are going to be affected by this in a very negative manner. And so it's not always just to get their attention. If there's ever a danger, we will let people know and let them know what actions to take, providing descriptions of somebody they need to be watching out for, or, you know, institute, you know, shelter in place, anything like that. But I am confident that the community is not in danger. I sent my kids to school in this town today. My spouse has been out ever since this happened in this town doing things, so have I. So it is a safe town. Our officers are working very hard. We've got some people that haven't only had a handful of hours of sleep since Saturday, and they're still working today. So, you know, as soon as we're able to release more information, we will.
Thank you, Chief. One thing I would like to add also, we fail to remember sometimes our history. And to your point, Mayor Pro Tem, I understand what is happening now with the crimes that are being reported more so than they ever used to be, with social media, mainstream media, having who knows how many TV channels now. Some of us in this room, and I'm not going to name names, can remember a time we only had three TV stations. So with us having hundreds, if not thousands, to choose from, we certainly can get all types of entertainment and or media, and some of that's not even accurate. So people need to do their fact finding. But yes, North Carolina was one of the last states to change juvenile laws from being an adult prosecuted wise at 16 and above to 18. That in itself causes the criminal element to recruit younger people, because then they're held to a juvenile standard instead of an adult standard. That's part of the issue, and we could talk about this for hours as to why crime is prevalent and why it's getting worse. But 40-some years ago, at one of the local high schools, there was a murder during the day by students going to school. And I don't dare want to mention the city, but if people want to do fact finding, there were brutal rapes in the 70s at some of the local schools here in Iredell County, not in the town of Troutman. But it's one of those things, anytime someone loses their life, it's a tragedy regardless of the circumstances. And I do appreciate, again, as the chief just reiterated, we have had several that have had no more than 4 hours sleep since Saturday that are still continuing to work to protect all of our citizens. And I am very proud of the job our agency is doing and the other agency, the SBI, that's assisting them to bring this case to closure as soon as they can. The next thing I'd like to talk about is, you all mentioned the lights, warning lights at the three locations, I'm sorry, on Wagner Street and of course here on Eastway. Austin has already ordered more lights. I remember one is going to go down here at Rumpel. Where did we identify the other? Was it Old Mountain? Old Murdoch. Old Murdoch, that's correct. Old Murdoch at the end of Eastway. But yes, they have been well received. We appreciate you all letting us know you've had positive feedback. The one thing I will add to that is, as I've talked to the chief and Andrew with planning and zoning and Lynn, we have also not just up here where these lights are at the Fit Trail coming out and going over to the Greenway, that will become a speed table. So there will be a hump there, but about where the other town property is, right along that property line, will be another speed hump on Eastway because of the, well, quite frankly, as the chief said, they keep writing tickets and it seems like there's more people speeding instead of slowing them down. I believe was the way you said that. So it's not that our officers are not enforcing, it's some of these folks, because of the stoplight on Main Street at Tally, they look at this as a bypass and do not understand it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone, even though our officers can be out there writing tickets. As is normal, when they see the patrol car, they slow down. So by putting these speed tables on this section of street, we will need you all to approve that, because it's altering the state street. But we do have it scheduled to be done, hoping that you all saw approval of that. But those will go in conjunction whenever the speed humps and tables we've already talked about on Brown and West Avenue are done. We hope to get them all done at the same time. That could be as soon as this week. It may be a couple weeks depending on their workload. Also, as the mayor mentioned, it's Veterans Day Saturday for all veterans, but I would just like to tell all my Marine Corps brothers and sisters, it's our birthday on Friday. They have the Veterans Day to celebrate for everybody the day after. But the town hall will be closed Friday, not just because it's the Marine Corps birthday, but because it's the day before the holiday, and we will be closed. Councilman Now, I'm sorry, can tell you, last evening, the Panthers celebrated Veterans Day as they were at home this weekend, and the Marine Corps was there. A lot of Lowe's hardware employees was there that displayed the flag for the United States, but the Marine Corps drill team from 8th and I in Washington was there, and you could hear a stadium that huge, very quiet as they were doing their drills and slinging rifles with bayonets back and forth. From the first time I ever saw that as a young Marine to now, it still causes chills to see how well those guys are, and ladies, that perform that. Back when I first started, it was just males. Now they do have males and females on the drill team, but they did extraordinary. It was a great honor. Also, I would like to mention earlier in the month, we had the Wicked Fast 5K. That was one of the most attended that we have had. That's something that Emily has done numerous times for our citizens that like the health side of the 5Ks. She does one fairly regular. We have the Jingle Run coming up in December as another one. But there were a lot of folks laughing and having a good time with the various costumes they wore during the Wicked Fast 5K. And the trails and treats, I would absolutely like to rethink all the volunteers, as several of you all did. Our staff that went out and participated, that's one of the things, even though it's still work for most of them. Some, like Lou, stands around and just scares little children.
So a normal day.
I would say, and adults. You know, so.
And was able to do it without even a costume.
Oh, he didn't have a costume?
No, he didn't have a costume. Well, that's his costume. Yeah.
But as Council Lady Harris stated, this definitely, if it was not 3,000, it was close. Because from the time we opened, there was a line already to the pavilion in the park. Until 5 minutes before we closed, the line was still at the pavilion at the park. We appreciate all the public that came out, but all the volunteers that took time to come out and share candy with all these kids. It was a great event. Several nonprofits in the community, several churches, several businesses, but that's what makes it a success. And just like you said, Councilman Oxford, I've talked to citizens in 2 neighborhoods that thought because we did it, there wouldn't be as many kids there, but apparently it got them amped up to go on a tour because they went through varying season down to Falls Cove to several neighborhoods. But yeah, it has been well. I also, just on a level that's for you all's knowledge, and some of the public would be interested, but because we have talked about spacing needs, we have started trying to make some adjustments here. Even though we're not open the Parks and Rec location to the public yet, it is allowed to where we're able to put Emily Watson down there for her office, a part-time staffer that's coming in addition to her already part-time staff that are able to call it a new office. We have Lou and the passport office. One of the things I would like to sidebar there for a minute is we have a lot of people that well, a couple have walked in to the passport office and said, why does Troutman need a passport office? And fortunately for our employee that's been working, has said the simplified answer, revenue. In addition to revenue, as we discussed when you all allowed us to proceed with the plans to do that, even though we have full-time staff, myself included, that are certified by the U.S. government to issue those, it is mainly run by one part-time employee. These are scheduled by appointments only. Since we have started keeping records in July, I don't see Justin. Oh, there he is. Justin, I just asked him this past week, how much money have we generated? And it is just a tick under $30,000 since July. So it not only does it offer services to those citizens that may need it without having to drive to the only other location in Iredell County to get them, or another county, but it is generating money to help pay for that building, which is in that 2018 plan that the town had adopted back then of what hopefully happens in the future. Same thing with Dollar General. Some folks have asked, hey, why did they buy that store? No, to my knowledge, Dollar General has no intentions of closing. We've got at least 15 years worth of contracts with them. And again, purchasing that property, them paying the rent, allows the town taxpayers their taxes not to go up. And what I mean by that simply is whenever DOT comes in and says, okay, we're ready to proceed with the DOT plan, if we as a town follow our plan in conjunction with that of the 2018 Lytton Street Extension Plan and those things, make that part of Wagner a pedestrian-only area, then we as the town would have to buy that property at that time for whatever price it's valued at. There is no return on that money, because then you bring dozers in and you tear the buildings down. The way the plan is now, the tenant is paying us back for that, even though we paid for it, and that 15, 16-year time frame, that property will be paid for. The passport offices, the revenues there is also paying for that property. So when citizens hear park truths out there, they don't know the rest. Both of those buildings are being paid for by the services in them and or the tenants that's there. And again, I thank you all for having the foresight to know what our plans are and to stick to those so that our taxes do not have to increase to the citizens. But here, back to what I started talking about, moving staff around, because of things that we will discuss more in depth in the future, we've moved the police chief to get more near his officers. We need spacing over there. We are trying to get ready to where we can be certified through the state on our law enforcement actions and how we're conducting business. And part of that is to make sure we have the appropriate, by statute, room to handle all of our evidence, but we also need to make sure that we have security in place in better means. Just for example, if you are interviewing certain felony cases, it is asked that you record those. While our officers do have body cams, and they are certainly able and have been doing that with the means we have, it would certainly be more appropriate if we had an interview room and things of that nature. So the chief has moved his office to that hallway. Today, Public Works employees helped me move a lot of stuff over here. I'm not transitioned yet, but I have moved to this office at the corner. But I appreciate the chief and his officers and their patience. Having that many officers work out of basically 2.5 offices is unheard of this day and time. But we are trying to do what we can to take that going forward. If you all have any specific questions, I'll be glad to answer.
What did you say the two tables on Eastway are going to be again? What do you
I'm sorry?
plan for those two tables,
Uh-huh.
speed control tables on Eastway? Where are they going to be again?
Where the comes out of the fit trail to the greenway, where it's already marked as a crosswalk, that would be a speed table wide enough that the crosswalk is still present and will be painted accordingly. The next speed calming device, whether we do a table or just a hump, is basically going to be right in that general area of the corner of our property that we bought on south of us here on Eastway. That way, coming from Church Street, there's a lot of traffic that comes there, some comes from Rumpel. But basically, and using just plain simple terms, they rev up and they're already running 40 by the time they get to town hall. So even if we just left one calming device up there, they would still be traveling pretty fast. So by putting the two, we hope that will then at least make people understand it's 25 miles an hour. And of course, this one up here is specifically for the pedestrians and bicyclists, protection of them. But the other one is just to make sure this whole street's not sped on anymore.
Yeah, so one thing I did forget to mention was the partnership that the town did, our officers did with CATS on the domestic violence.
Thank you. Yes, I did.
So I thought Principal Rogers and the students there did an awesome job supporting those at my sister's house. And so, forgot the officer's name.
Sergeant Kerry Baker.
Sergeant Baker did a great job of doing tours and making sure that that event was well done, and you know, really, I think at least for some of the folks who attended, really appreciated that. And so I understand that baton will be handed off pretty soon here, but Officer Baker should be commended for the work that he did as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for remembering that. I too forgot. That was an awesome event. Our representatives from Raleigh also, a couple of them attended, Jeff McNeely and Senator Sawyer, and just folks realizing that people took time out of their schedule to come for such an event was greatly appreciated.
Great. So the next item on our agenda is a review of Thursday's agenda. So turn it back over to Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 2, consent agenda. The first 4 are normal minutes type things. Number 5, approval of Smith Village Amenity Center facade review. You have a copy of that in your packet. Lynn or I are here to answer any questions you may have about that. DRB did approve. Any questions? All right.
Was there approval? It says, was it conditional?
There were 2 conditions that they placed on their approval, yes. It had to do with just including some stone on the pillars on the front of the building, and then to put that stone around the building. Those are the 2 conditions. Around the pillars, the bottom of the pillars are columns at the entrance, and then around the bottom of the curtain, just to be done.
And how did the developer respond to that?
That they're agreeable to that.
Anything else? Number 6, approval of food line review of amended elevations to include awning, excuse me, increased glass on the front exterior elevation and rooftop screening. The design review also recommended approval of that. Are there any questions for Lynn or Al? Number 7, approval of Troutman storage facade review. It's located on the southwest corner of South Main Street and Barkville Road. Are there any questions on that? Number 8, amend the Troutman, Town of Troutman schedule of fees.
Quick question, are these are both new? Understood.
New construction, yes, yes, sir.
The fees that we're asking, Public Works Director Austin Walls here to assist if you have any questions. But to simplify it, basically we have installed meters at the normal request of new development. What is occurring is some of the sub-trades are going in and damaging the water meters so that they can access the water before we actually put a meter in to start running water through. That's creating additional work on staff. Of course, some of these developers, when that occurs, they don't want to wait the normal process length to request another one to be put in. So we have changed the fees in there that we're allowed to charge them, and also to charge for our administrative fees of having to go in the computer and the time it takes to take one out, put another one back, and things of that nature. Austin, did I leave anything out?
No, sir.
You all have any questions of us on that process or the fees we're requesting to change?
Maybe not so much the fees, but you just described something I'm unfamiliar with. So basically the way you set the table for the meter to be dropped in, they're coming in and basically just hacking it so they can get the water flowing? And this requires a full replacement?
Well, the two that happened in the past 2 weeks, they set a meter and within only running 7 gallons through them, they smashed the top of the meter off. So then you just get free water, because then we can't register. Guys go out there and find that the meter has been broken, tampered with. So then we locked it off, and for them to get a new one, they have to do a reconnection fee, and obviously a new meter. Well, we've got meters on the shelf right now, but they're not meters to be replacing broken ones 2 weeks later. So then we have to do an expedited meter. So it's a case by case, because we've also found that they put straight pipes into our setters before we even put meters in. So they're tampering them with them that way, but they're also, the main concern is $320 meter broken right off the bat. So we're trying to obviously not use our funds, but also deter them from doing that. Deter them.
Is there anything else we can do to curtail this behavior?
We already have a civil penalty for the straight pipe that he's talking about, and in lieu of prosecution, once we do those, it has varied the 3 years, almost 3 years that I've been here. 1 month we caught 4, and they paid the civil penalty, and then we may go 4 or 5 months and not have any. So it just varies as far as when and how it's happening. We have not had any repeat offenders, and once we do the fines, then it's kind of like that whole area is then on notice that, hey, they will fine you.
Till the next group of subs come in and make the same mistake?
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, so good to know we have that civil penalty. I'm like, there's gotta be something to shake the tree from the top to let it.
$500 civil penalty for straight pipe.
Good deal. Thank you.
Austin, what do you say those meters are running right now?
Well, $320 is what we're charging for a meter, but the expedited is $500.
That's what we're wanting to change the fee to, because it costs us to then order. We basically do random supply of meters based off of what the need has been. But once they damage one and then they want to go back to the top, we're having to pay extra shipping. We also are having to change the scheduling to accommodate somebody now going back to the top. And that's why we're asking for the increased amount, is to be able to then charge for the shipping that we have to pay for. It's not anything that we're trying to make a profit on. It's just we are trying to make pass that cost on to them appropriately by our fees, instead of us saying, hey, wait a minute, this actually cost us $200 more than a normal bid would.
It's, again, when I asked the question, is it new? So this is, it's a new fee. Is this actually recouping the cost of both the one that they damaged and the new one?
Well, they've already paid for the one they damaged.
All right.
So the new fee does pay for the new meter, the expedited shipping, and with that other part on there, $50 an hour per admin, that allows us
Got it.
the admin fees that we also incur.
Okay. So before that meter is installed, they've already paid for it. It's not that we've installed it, waiting for a CO or anything like that. It's already paid for.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions on that topic? Thank you. If I may, we'll excuse Austin so he don't have to stay with us for the rest of the meetings. Thank you, Austin.
Thanks, sir.
Hopefully you don't have any meters to install.
I hope not.
We've got an office to finish painting.
All right, thank you.
Good to know they could be straight pipe though.
Yeah.
Carry it down there.
Number 9, annexation request, non-contiguous. The applicant is Sandra Tilton for Sunbeam Properties. That is self-explanatory. Just simply ask that you give direction to the clerk to proceed with investigating that matter. Number 10 is another annexation request. This one, however, is a contiguous property by Martin Ray Holdings. It's 1.19 acres located at Maple Street. Also 0.44 acres located at Southeast Way Drive, a 0.75 acre parcel. I butchered that up. I apologize. There's 2 parcels that total 1.19 acres. And again, simply ask that you direct the clerk to go forward with that. We will have new business. Was there any questions on this before me?
I have a question, I'm sorry. The recognitions and presentations with that proclamation, do you want to get me a copy and read it at the meeting or no?
Yes.
Okay.
So I should have it tomorrow, I'm assuming.
So I'll add the proclamation.
Yeah, be great.
Number 12, rezoning request, new business. This was the 0.53 acres. Applicant is Peter and Judy. And I can't even get the last name. I'm not going to insult him, but butchering that name. You all have the documents. Lynn is here if you have any additional questions.
And this is at the daycare center.
No, this is the new business that just opened where they're running the forest
Okay.
business. And they're just wanting to rezone from OI to CB so that they can display some of their flowers out front.
That house look is,
Yes,
It's just
basically
right
it's
across the
diagonal
street.
from here.
gotcha, gotcha.
It's former residence that's, you know, being converted. I presume landscaping, or not landscaping, but plant.
They sell plants, they have a
Combination.
forest, they call themselves, yeah.
I'm sorry, do what?
I think they have an art gallery, they
Yeah.
do.
I did have a chance to meet, and any idea how to say that last name? Just so that
They
I
pronounce it Chanel.
should know. Awesome.
Peter
I have
and
to say it.
Shinday.
Don't say so.
I think it's Peter and Shinday, is how she pronounces her name.
Okay. Should know. All right.
Any other comments on that one? Number 13 is text amendment, variances and special use permits. Staff initiated a request to amend approval expiration of variance and special use permits in section 9 of the UDO. Lynn and Andrew are here if you have any specific questions to that.
Just to keep them having, repeat them a lot of times, in that first year.
That's correct. Just to extend the time period.
For 2 years.
Number 14 is a text amendment, TA 23-11, Board of Adjustments, Decisions and Noticing. Staff initiated a request to amend Board of Adjustments, Decisions and Notice in Section 10 of the UDO to match the state statutes that are in North Carolina 160D. Again, Lynn and Andrew are here if you have any questions on that one. And
We're
then,
close to getting all those 160D changes done to the UDO.
I think so.
We keep coming, another one coming up, this one here, that 4/5 vote.
We stumble across them once in a while, yes. So hopefully.
and then item number 15 is Troutman's mobility plan. Andrew is here to discuss that. You all were given an email instead of it being a lot of documents that were copied because it's quite large. And Lynn and Andrew's here if you've got any questions about that.
Mr. Manager, I apologize, not hearing anything on 14. Can I ask on the 13, I want to refresh my memory, even though I was at the meeting, I'm trying to remember now, the variance, what's being proposed, which I understand it's following, I guess, terms of 160. This is part of the 160D, item 13?
No,
Is this, now 14 is, yeah, no, but is 13, is that part of 160D as well?
Not technically. Basically, variances don't typically expire. They run with the land.
Right.
Because a variance is usually for something where there's a non-conformity. So
Yeah.
a variance brings the property into conformance, but for some reason our ordinance is written that the variance does expire. So that's not technically 160D. That's
Okay.
just basically how variances work. And then with the special use permits, 2 years is typically the timeframe. Andrew,
Right.
comment on that. You have any-
So the variance, once a variance is issued, it's in perpetuity. And special uses too, still will be to the 2 years, as opposed to 1 year is what it has been. Okay, all this, I'm trying to remember exactly, what covers and just the other BOA under 160D. So I just want to make sure I still had that correct in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Yeah, so Kim, I think I got one page out in my section that's probably should have been in the variance section, maybe. Page 62. See that?
What section, I'm sorry?
It's just after the, it's during the text amendment, but, I think I've got the, just so council can follow along, I've got both that certification for the, special use permit. Should that both be in there? You may have to come over and look at mine. It might just be mine.
Right, that's the variance.
That's 63, right?
Special use, okay, so with that, and then. Okay, what's the next one? The special use one?
But you're,
That's
It's good to see I wasn't the only candy game in town this meeting. I know, I looked across.
110. 2311.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then what's the last one?
Is that the variance?
Yeah, there's one for each one.
Okay.
So one goes with the variance, one has HUPs with one, and then, so that was 11, so that's right.
Okay. So I thought the text amendment was separate from the request for the variance.
No, the variance and the HUPs together
Okay, got it.
in one text amendment.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
Got it?
Okay.
Yeah, so there was two in that one amendment. So that's where that comes in.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, I'm clear. Sorry about that, Mr.
No worries. Number 16. Consider approval of ordinance, titled ordinance authorizing infrastructure development reimbursement agreements. We have had one developer in particular reach out, even though the town has done this previously. They're simply asking if we would be interested. This does not commit the town to enter into one with them. However, in speaking with Gary, he suggested that we approve this so that we have that there if they propose a reimbursement agreement going forward. And Gary's here if you have any specific questions as to why we need to vote on it or anything else.
Quickly, just the statute requires if you're gonna do reimbursement agreements that you have an ordinance authorizing that. So that's all this does.
And the dollar amount on the intersection of roadway improvement, that's just, is that standard or that's just what we,
I'm sorry.
on section 3, you've got roadway improvements. And so if the public cost does not exceed $250,
That's statutory.
okay.
Well, it's just basically to put in a formal agreement, as you say, for reimbursement. We're codifying it now to allow us to do that.
It's just an authorization ordinance that allows you to enter into the agreement.
So over 250 will require a vote.
Yeah, the statute, you gotta go to bidding and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 250 won't get you very far these days.
No.
I'm sorry, Joe, what was your question?
Oh, just if it exceeds the 250, if it would, require, it would go through the typical procedure, so.
That's all we have.
I have one more matter to bring to your attention. It's just a reminder per statute with the election tomorrow. The November meeting would be the time to set an organizational meeting if you desire to do so per statute. You can set that at any time, as long as it is no later than the regular meeting. Some places do it the first Monday of December. If you don't want to set a specific time, then it defaults to your regular meeting as far as swearing in, electing mayor pro tem, those kinds of things. So if you want to set something, Thursday would be the time to do it. If you don't, then the default is Thursday in
December. I think historically we've done it that Thursday in December.
Right.
So unless anybody wants to offer a change in that.
If I may add some additional commentary, just so we don't get into a situation that we did a couple of years ago. Councilman Oxer come on the board. Typically, historically, the council has cleaned up whatever business that people were privy to in case, worst case scenario, if we have a new board member. That way, I think it would be appropriate today to have direction from you all to us as we prepare December's agenda before the election. That way nobody can say we did anything hinky because this one or that one or whoever. Historically, as I state, the town finishes town business with whatever people are participant and would have privy to. Just like tonight, we're going to go into closed session, and we have done that. You're not required to do that, as Gary can tell you, but that's what we have historically done. We will fix our agendas normal unless we have direction from you all to do something different.
Well, and again, I guess, keeping with that theme, if there's, I think the issue, if there's something controversial, number one, and something that a new board member coming on doesn't have, I guess, a whole lot of background on it before they're required to vote on it, that we address that issue before we do the installation. I guess my question then goes back to Gary. The organizational meeting being, if it's in December, I can't recall, are we required to do it before or at the end of the meeting?
There's no requirement on that.
That's what I thought, okay.
I agree with Mayor. I mean, to me, it's common sense. If you're not privy to the information, the background and so forth, how can you ask someone to make a decision based on really no knowledge of the situation in the case of a new person coming on the council? And I know in many years past, that's generally been the understood thought, was that, you know, immediately if you had things you're working on that you could make a decision that night, and I'm talking about the December meeting, then you would go ahead and clean up there and then move on. Now, obviously, there's some things that may be ongoing you're working on that's going to be several weeks or months down the way that you can't cover that, but, you know, within reason that you can cover and make a decision on in at December's meeting, you go ahead and do that and then move on. I mean, to me, it's just common sense, if anything else. I mean, asking someone to make a decision, something they know very little about, and it may be something with intricate detail and facts applied, and ask them to make a decision is just, I don't know, it's hard to understand otherwise.
So I would just say, if there's anything that we need to cover, we'll cover it and maybe do the installation at the end. But if there's not, then when you formulate the agenda, we can do it at the beginning, so.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
You know, just a little context, you know, and this maybe what the mayor just said, is that, you know, once we cover the old business, you know, we can either elect to go ahead and do it at that time, which would be, you know, in the middle of the meeting, or just wait till the end of the meeting, whatever, you know, folks want to do. But normally, again, in the past, that's the way it was done in years past, clean up the old business and then have the, but Mayor, were you suggesting we do that or at the end of the meeting?
I got it. If we have any old business that is pressing, that would not be public information, we certainly will handle that first. If not, it'll be a normal agenda for after the election.
Yep.
So I might suggest, let's not leave it fluid at all. Let's just go ahead and determine where we're going to put it on the agenda, and we put it there, and then we don't have to worry about coming Thursday, you know, the December meeting. Wait, do we do it now, or do we need to wait, or do we want it before or after public comments?
The only thing I would say to that is, at this point, we don't know what the agenda will be. I understand and absolutely am not arguing. Please don't take it that way. But if there's no business to come up, then it would be customarily appropriate to do installation at the beginning, before public comment. But likewise, if you also desire, if business comes up or pressing matters become urgent that we are now dealing with, then we may need to deal with that first and then have the installation afterwards. But at this point, I'm not aware of anything that says it wouldn't be okay for it to happen at the beginning. But we can't predict the future with at least one situation that is pending.
Sure. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. There's no argument. It's just, we can make a decision this week to where we don't have to worry about this ever again, no matter what the situation is. If we determine, yes, it's going to be here, so that way future councils aren't going to run into this, and we won't have, you know, this won't get recycled every 2, 4, 12 years or whatever. You know, say, look, nope, Town of Troutman does it right after the public comment section on the, you know, on the December meeting after, you know, and then they're just, that puts out any potential fires or gossiping or
I mean, we can't bind any,
or sour grapes or whatever, however you want to call it.
Yeah,
we can't bind any future council. I mean, you can still have them, you know, down the road.
Sure,
10
sure.
years from now, 12, 5 even, I mean, you know what I'm saying? We can't, I understand what you're saying, and but again, we can't bind any future council from redoing it however.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, I said, we could do our part to eliminate the questions. You know, and I think that's what it kind of, what got out of control last time was
Bless you.
nobody really knew what was going on, you know, including the people involved. You know, that you know, well, when is it going to be? When's it supposed to be? You know, that was never really resolved. You know, and here we are 2 years later, and we got the same situation that's kind of right at our doorstep. And I'm like, is there anything we can do to squash this now?
The only thing I'll add, I certainly applaud your effort in trying to make it clear and concise. But we cannot predict future business, just like now, what is customary would have no problem unless something urgent or something is definitely postponed. If one of these shows up, it appears or becomes controversial, if they postpone it, at this point, we don't know that. But come Thursday night, we will, and then if the other matter that's not on the agenda at all, if it services, then that's something that we will know in the future before the meeting, and then just have to adjust accordingly. While I certainly applaud what you're saying, what Mayor Pro Tem is also saying is correct, and that even if you said now, hey, let's just make it a policy, we do it after public comments, that's not a valid motion, because the next board, you're committing them to an agenda that can be altered at any time.
I mean, I understand that, but I can't be responsible for decisions that are going to be made 10 years from now. All I know is while I sit here, I don't want that to happen again. You know, so that's my point.
Well, your alternative there, I mean, sort of you're talking, the way two different things, you can have rules of operation of the board, which is what the senior states or the county have, and they state that it's going to be on the first Monday of the month. So you can do operations of the board. I would not rush into that between now and December. If that's something y'all might want to consider doing. Or somebody can make a motion Thursday night, this is when we're going to do it at the December meeting, or you just leave it fluid. Those are your three options.
we'll think about that between now and Thursday. And, again, based on the agenda, I don't see at least for me, a reason that we need to rush into it, but, again, I don't see anything on the agenda that would require us to do it. I think we tend to invite people to that meeting, and part of the reason we have tried to do it, at least on the front end sometimes, is to allow them to get here. We've got judges or family members, and they don't have to wait till the end of the meeting, and so that's a whole nother piece of it. But again, if there's something that shows up at the, to the manager's point, that we've all been talking about, the new person will have that visibility, then we probably need to move it to the end. That's the kind of the nature of the agenda that I would see. But again, we're not like States for Mooresville, where they might have first reading, second reading, or multiple meetings. We tend to have our 2 meetings a month, where you also have the Monday before, where you could also say, hey, this is where we're going to do it. So that's an opportunity for us to interject on that agenda at that point. That would be my thought. So.
I'm sorry. And to the mayor's point, those that have basically bi-weekly meetings or 2 a month that's spread out, it certainly allows them to calendar certain things that would be controversial or not, to where it's a non-issue. With us, we don't do that unless you always start having to that way, not the way we do it.
It's a situation where in this case, and you know, and I'm trying to see both sides, and both sides are valid, but it's one of those where one size just doesn't fit all. You know, it's just something that we can't sit down and say, this is where it fits, it's the only fit there is, and no matter what the situation upcoming is, and it's just hard to make, not knowing in the future, to make a decision, say this is what we're gonna stick to, and there will be no changes. And again, like, as the town manager mentions, not knowing what's coming up, is trying to put to me, a round peg in a square hole, and it's just not gonna work, I don't think. So, you know, while I understand, where Jerry's coming from, I just feel like that, you know, we just have to take it on a case by case, election by election time, you know, every 2 years. We just, whatever council's in place at that time, we'll just have to look at it and do the best they can, based on the agenda that is presented, you know, a few days before the meeting, the regular meeting in December. I just don't see how we can adequately make a decision that's going to fit, and be good, from now on into the future. I just don't see where it's going to work, and that's why I'd like to see if we're going to make a hard and fast rule, including what we're going to do in the future. I would like for it to be done knowing of what's going to be in the future, and that's just impossible for us. And it's almost like my same analogy of asking someone who's just been elected and coming on the board and not privy to certain facts, making a decision, and that's asking me to vote on something that I'm not sure of what the situation is going to be, even in this case, Thursday or December's regular meeting, what the agenda is going to be like. And it's hard for me to vote for something. You know, we'll just have to trust each council as we go along to make the correct decision that is presented to them at the December meetings following an election. It's, again, my 2 cents worth. But
Mr. Mayor said you would have an opportunity at the agenda meeting to set the agenda for the Thursday meeting.
At that point, you will know what's on the agenda.
Yeah.
And the council can make a decision at that point.
Sure.
Yeah, I understand. I totally understand. We swear him in at the end of the meeting, doesn't matter what's on the agenda. That's my point. I'm not saying we should have done it differently than we did it 2 years ago.
Well, that's, you know.
I think maybe that's where we're.
Yeah, as Gary mentions, you know, the agenda briefing in December, that would still give a few days for people to be notified, these are our plans, and as the mayor says, they can schedule their family attendance, and people who are elected know what's going on.
I think also, just like we discussed privately and in group meetings, I think part of what occurred the last time with you specifically is it was just an assumption, this is the way it is on both sides. And then when it didn't occur, people thought there was some shenanigans that went on. And I think going forward, at least with all of us in this room, we are certainly cognizant of, hey, at that agenda meeting, let's make sure that everybody knows this is the agenda and why. Because I don't know that I, as the manager, and or we, as a council, relayed that the last time. To me, it was not that big a deal because of what had happened historically. But again, I failed to see and understand the expectations of others. And to your point, yes, if you put it at the end, that solves it. And we certainly can do that this time. But on the flip side of that, if the meeting, just like that one, winds up being 3 hours, we don't know what time frame that'll be. So if it's a normal thing, then let's give everybody the honor of, okay, get it done here, and then it's done. That's the only thing I'll add. But I do understand what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I'm not out for a pound of flesh.
No.
I'm trying to, like you said, address what happened so it doesn't happen to anybody else. That's my goal here.
And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, thank you. Next item on the agenda. Awesome. Well said and heard. Next item on the agenda is closed session. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A3 to consult an attorney, and 143, 318, 11A6 to discuss a personnel matter. Who do we need in the room?
All we need is staff and the town attorney for the first part. The second part, clerks and council.
Okay, great. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll go into closed session.
Two first don't count as a second.